All right, so part two on the prep work, I had a phone call, so I had to redo it. So now at this point, once we've addressed all the wood, how they can pay for it, so on and so forth, the type of wood that it is, then we're going to talk about all of your flashing and metal work. Now, if I just ring off names of things and they don't know what it means, it has zero value to the customer, right? So I can make a piece of metal the most valuable thing in the world because that may relate to one of the issues we found in the attic, in an attic inspection.
Yes.
Whatever's allowing water into that customer's home is the most valuable component on this roofing system. Plain and simple, right? Because it's going to solve my what?
Problem.
Solve my problem. Exactly. So, flashing. What flashing is designed to do on a home is it's a bent metal. So basically, it's fit into the shape of an L like this, right? And then usually it'll fish up behind siding. So some of it's going to go underneath of, let's just say a piece of it goes underneath of your siding, and then the next piece goes underneath of your shingle. And the way it works is, give me a shingle. Whatever, just give me a same prop. Start or stretch mark, don't matter. Okay, so you got a shingle here. So let's just say right here, and I'm going to bring this thing down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Visuals are fantastic when you're in a house. So let's just say this is my wall, okay? My siding. There's my shingle right there. Okay, this gap right here, water is going to be able to get down that wall, so I need something to keep water from getting in there. So what do? We take a piece of flashing. So this one side of the flashing is going to fish up behind that siding so that this part of the metal can catch that water before it goes in the gap. And the way it works is they sit on the top half of the shingle, right? And then the next shingle is installed. Let me see this shingle here. Okay, we've got the next shingle installed over top of that piece of flashing. Then another piece of flashing goes here. And then each piece continuously overlaps the piece below it by 2 inches, okay? Now, what that does is as water is rolling off your roof in the heavy rainstorm and it gets down into that gap, it's laying on top of the flashing and channeling and wicking its way down your roof instead of in your home. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay? So the thing is with flashing, we can never assume that the last roofer did it correctly, so we're going to redo it. Okay? Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
No.
No questions. All right, fantastic. So once we move on from there, you are going to have some penetrations in the roof deck, such as your pipe collars, right? You're going to have your skylights, maybe a chimney, okay? So there's a few different things that you're going to have to wrap and seal around in addition to just using your standard roofing components, okay? And what they do is integrate those components into that skylight, into that chimney, into that vent to create a complete waterproof system in all aspects and parts of your roof. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. So with skylights, 2 options. If the skylight's in good shape and it's not leaking, what we do is buy a special flashing kit designed specifically for skylights, and that's just to waterproof that skylight into the new roofing system. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, great. The next one is a pipe boot. Have you ever seen a pipe boot before?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the pipe boots, what they do is they have a waterproof seal that seals and molds to the pipe, and then they have a built-in piece of flashing in them. So you'll actually see the upper half goes underneath of the shingles above it. The bottom half goes on top of the shingle, even with a row of shingles.
James Lee.
With that being said, the reason why the bottom half must go on top is this is flashing, so it's channeling water away. So if I put this underneath the next course, where's that water going?
Under the shingle.
Under the shingle. And then once it goes under the shingle, where's it going now? Very bad, right?
Yes.
So it's going to lay on top of the shingle. Make sense?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Any questions?
No, sir.
All right, great. Now let's talk about the chimney. Chimney's a big conversation, okay? A chimney is going to use several types of flashing in addition to ice and water shield, which we're going to get into shortly, okay? So when it comes to flashing a chimney, there's going to be a special waterproof membrane used, which goes up and rolls up the base a few inches. Then you're going to use step flashing, which is what we just talked about, right? And maybe have an apron flashing on the bottom. So in other words, we're going to use metal work to channel water away, okay? Now here's where your challenge comes in on the chimney. Water's going to roll down that stone, okay? If I just caulk my flashing in, eventually that caulk splits, water gets behind that flashing, right? So imagine I have 2 components here. Here's my chimney, here's my seal. Eventually, if I have a caulk line here, chalk line here, water's gonna work its way behind, okay? And then it's gonna get down and in, it's gonna rot out everything, and you're gonna have a leak in your home.
Yes.
So what they do on a chimney is they use what's called a Dremel drill. It's a little grinder, and they etch just a little notch into the stone, right? Maybe
Yes,
3/4 of an inch. What that allows us to do is then take a piece of flashing at the end and then lock this little piece directly into the stone,
In the more. Yes.
covering your step flashing, okay? So it's a 3-part system. Your top piece of flashing, your step flashing, and then your waterproof barrier that goes up underneath and rolls behind it like that. If you do your chimney this way,
No water.
the only reason you'll ever have water coming in a chimney is just because the points between the brick need to be redone. But from your roofing aspect, it is handled 100% complete. Make sense?
Yes.
All right. This is standard on our installation. No matter what package you pick, that's exactly how we're going to do your job. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Great. Any questions up until this point so far? Does everything make sense?
Makes sense.
Fantastic. All right. There's going to be another component we're going to use, which is called a drip edge. Let's see it, please. This is your little metal piece you have.
Oh, wait.
All right. So what a drip edge is designed to do is this is designed to create a seal between your fascia board, which is the wood that sits behind your gutter, right? And then the decking of your roof. Okay? So what happens is without a drip edge, you're going to have 2 pieces of wood that make a meeting point. There's a gap, right? Because those pieces of wood meet. Now, wind-driven rain, pooling water from ice dams, all of that's going to get in that gap, and it's going to work its way behind your fascia board and rot everything out. And then eventually it works its way down your walls. Okay?
Yes.
Because where the gutter is, you tend to have an overhang. On the sides of your house, you don't.
You don't.
It's flush against it. So any water getting back there is running down the walls of your home, which could lead to structural rot, mold, mildew, failure.
Yes.
Okay? So what we do to protect you is we're going to take what's called a drip edge, which is just a bend of aluminum. Okay? And it's actually going to cover the front of your fascia board like that, keeping the aluminum tucked tight to your home. And it's going to rest on the decking of the roof like that. Okay? So what this does is just keeps water out of that gap.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, now there's 2 schools of thought. This is what's called an F-type. Most drip edge is designed in what's called a C-type, which is just like this. Okay? So all it does is exactly what we talked about. An F-type, which is what we use, a little bit different. You're going to have a double-rolled aluminum ledge that sticks out over the edge. Do you have any idea why that's there?
To push the water a little further away.
To push the water further away? No. There's a specific reason this double rolled is sitting just like that. What hangs over the edge of your roof?
Shingles.
The shingles do. Okay, shingles are a little bit soft.
Fragile. And
Correct.
this- They give extra protection for the shingles.
Okay, so let me see a shingle for a second. So let's say my normal roof, shingles hanging over the edge, the wood stops here, a little bit of snow or ice, that bends down, just like that. Okay, then you get a heavy windstorm, it curls up. Then it bends down again because of snow and ice next year. And it goes up again. Eventually, you're going to crack the edges. You know, and then just the roof just looks beat up and rough, and they start cracking little pieces off on the edge. And when that happens, water doesn't shed correctly off the roof. So eventually you start getting water wicking in as well.
Yes.
Okay? So what an F-type does is it protects your investment. It's a double-rolled aluminum ledge that supports those shingles hanging over. So when and if there is heavy snow, you have metal under there to hold it still. If there's a heavy wind gust, you have metal taking the blunt force of that wind. So it protects the roof and it makes sure it looks nice.
All the time.
Correct.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes.
Any questions?
No.
Okay. Fantastic. There's your shingle. There's your drip edge. Okay. So now we're at the point where we're going to transition now into the total system. So we'll save that to the next video.